the one in the afternoon. The kids are going to enjoy that. And then we have a story later on. Quick reminder, if you don't have a smartphone, which my kids don't have smartphones, steal your parents' smartphones, okay? We're going to play Kahoot at the end of Sabbath school. A little game to see if you guys were paying attention. Yes. Yeah, I know. It's kind of one of those things, do you want to fight technology or do you want to embrace it? And I figure you might as well embrace it because kids are going to have smartphones anyhow. Just my kids aren't going to get one for a while. Right, boys? But they like to borrow mine. I bought an iPad for my sermons. And Clayton, I knew it was going to happen. He thinks it's his iPad. So he keeps like sneaking. I'm like, hey, I bought that for work. It's actually up there right now. It has my sermon notes. So quick little review here. These are many of the common protests or reasons why people give for not believing in God. There we go. You just believe what your parents taught you. Well, we talked about that. That's kind of a common one. That's just true for everyone. That has nothing to do with whether God exists or not. That's not positive or negative evidence. The Big Bang created the universe. We learned historically the term the Big Bang, again, is an insult atheists came up with to criticize the Christian implications. This has been a thousands of year old theology, a creation ex nihilo. That's a Christian concept based on the Bible in the Old Testament and the New Testament. And so this is what Christians always believe, that God created out of nothing. And something I didn't mention last time. All right, I got a little question here for you, okay? When you take wood and you burn it, and you collect all the smoke on top, like all the smoke up and all the oxygen that goes into it, does it have the same mass? Does all the smoke have the same mass as the wood you burned? No?
Actually, wait. Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, I'm going to get some.
But when you burn it, I mean, you have a wood pellet fire. I mean, that's gone. You have a big bag. You pull the big bag of wood pellets in. You drop it. You throw it into your furnace thing, and it burns it up. Where'd all the mass go? It disappeared.
Most of it will be in the smoke, but some of it was converted into heat and light.
For practical purposes, you'll keep the mass the same. So before Einstein, scientists discovered this, right, with chemical reactions, like you can boil water. You take all the steam, it'll be the same mass as the water. I mean, there's like, photons. If you create light, photons are very small mass. They do have mass. So for practical purposes, the same weight. And so then there was this thing of like, well, see, God can't create because you can't create or destroy matter. You can't create or destroy energy, just changes forms, right? And then Einstein came up with a theory called the theory of relativity. Yes, wish I had a whiteboard here. This is, by the way, not scripted at all. Theory of relativity. Who can tell me the equation for the theory of relativity? Super simple. Say it louder. E equals mc squared. What does the E stand for, scientists? Energy equals, what does the M stand for? Mass. Energy equals mass? That is radical, crazy, revolutionary, right? And there are some really long equations scientists are trying to put together, and Einstein comes up with like this 3-letter thing, right? E equals mc. What's C? Speed of light. Speed of light, fast or slow? Extremely fast, and squared means the speed of light times the speed of light. That means a little tiny bit of matter. If you convert to energy, that number, let's say it's 1, it's going to be times the speed of light, really big number, times the speed of light, which means 1 gram of mass converted to energy equals a lot of energy. That is not a chemical reaction, that is a nuclear reaction. That's why nuclear bombs or nuclear energy has so much energy. It's actually converting some of the mass of plutonium or uranium or hydrogen actually directly into energy. So it's energy equals a little tiny bit of mass times the speed of light twice. Okay, that's creation ex nihilo, which directly aligns with what Scripture said for thousands of years. It's very neat to see the science caught up with the Bible. And so, of course, we're able to convert matter into energy through nuclear fission or nuclear fusion. The idea of if God exists, we now have a scientific theory that aligns with creation, that if God is all powerful, he can then create energy into matter, right? Create matter out of pure energy. Ooh, you feel smarter already? Okay, so anyhow, so the whole thing, or the Big Bang, is an insulting term created by atheists to make fun of Edwin Hubble, Hubble Space Telescope named after him, about creation. Because then if the universe has a creation moment, then who created the universe? It has to be something outside the universe. Right? The universe doesn't create itself, right? None of you created yourselves, right? You were created by your mommies and your daddies, okay? We won't get into those details right now, though. Pastor Dan will cover that next sermon. All right? If God were all powerful and all good, he would stop evil. We talked about this last night a little bit. Now, again, with a lot of these criticisms, they can sound convincing at the surface, right? I watched the video that helped convert my brother called The God Delusion. It's on YouTube. As a pastor, right? Been through theology school. I watched it and it was like, whoa. Like at first, I was kind of taken back. I gotta think about this. But you gotta look at the surface. You gotta look at what's under the surface. So what's under the surface of this statement? And again, smart people use this statement. Neil deGrasse Tyson uses this statement. He's kind of switched. He was more atheistic. Now he's becoming more open to the idea of God, by the way. Very interesting what's going on right now in academia. What's the below the surface here? What's the assumption? Huge assumption. If God were all powerful and all good, he would stop evil. Where's the elephant-sized assumption here? There's two of them in here. What is evil? Power we can define that scientifically, right? Power is the ability to do work. What is evil? That's not a scientific term. That's a moral term, right? And if all you have is science, you don't have morals. Science is just science. Biology is biology. Lions kill zebras. Zebras step on earthworms. You know, it's just the big circle of life. We make it sound beautiful in The Lion King. You know, the circle. That's why I don't sing, right? The circle of life, Elton John song. Yeah, it's beautiful until a hyena kills your baby. Then it's not so beautiful, right? Or a leopard kills your favorite dog, right? That's not beautiful. So what is good and what is evil? Those are huge assumptions, and those are really theological or moral terms. And without God, those terms don't exist. There's no basis for them. And so you'll see these Harvard professors, these ethics professors, right? So they teach ethics to young people, like you guys are going to be in a little bit, you know. You go there, and they'll basically teach you that all definitions of right and wrong are just ones that we make up. Well, the common sense thing, right? Anybody can figure this out, right? Sometimes getting a PhD can mean you're really, really smart, and sometimes too much study, you lose common sense, right? And this is why I grew up on a farm. I like hanging out with plumbers and construction workers. They have this common sense wisdom. There's this intelligence, practical intelligence that everyday people have. And they think that without God, you just kind of keep morals. Well, no, there's no accountability. There's no heaven or hell, and then you make up the rules, right? And then you make up your version of the rules. I make up my version of the rules. And you know, anyhow. If God were all powerful, all good, let's go into this a little bit more today. And so, again, just want to admit up front, our church is not perfect. This church isn't perfect. The one I grew up in isn't perfect. Our families aren't perfect. And sometimes we get annoyed at that, especially as young people. You see some hypocrisy, right? You see some fakeness. You see some double standards, and you get mad, you know, and you're like, oh, I'm tired of this. And you walk away from that. When you walk away from this, you're not walking into nothing. You're walking into something, and there are serious problems with something. If you follow the implications of not believing God, there are major, major problems. Last night we talked about those. Number one, the illusion of personhood. You're not a person, you're just a smart animal, right? You're an ape with a supercharged brain, especially your frontal lobe. Yes. My brother took a class called Evolutionary Psychology, probably the most influential class he's taken in his life. And one of his textbooks was a comic book And I forget what the name of the comic book was, but I looked through it myself, right? I'm like, oh, what's this, right? And the cartoons in it, like this comic book, it kind of looked like Planet of the Apes. It actually like these human bodies with kind of like an ape face, and there's this human ape thing on a skateboard saying, so really we're just apes in the fast lane. We're basically like apes with supercharged brains, and through cooperation and knowledge, we've created all this science stuff, cars and houses and stuff, invented religion, and now we're trying to navigate this. Number 2 is the illusion of free will, or the illusion of choice. Yes, I keep forgetting to do this. I need to get like a YouTube video of these crazy domino things people do, right? Where you tip over one domino, it goes all over. That basically every choice you've ever made really isn't. It's just a really complicated chain reaction, chemical reaction, but like a really complicated domino effect that starts at the Big Bang and everything is predetermined up to now and into the future. You just have the illusion of free will, like taking cards off the top of a deck. And the third one is the illusion of value, okay? The illusion of value, where there's 3 more problems I'm going to deal with today. The illusion of purpose, right? It's very interesting. Some of these atheistic scholars, they try and bring purpose to life. And you're like, no. The honest thing, well, we'll get to this. The honest thing, if there is no God, then the proper response is despair. Number 5, the illusion of truth. And number 6, the illusion of right and wrong. Let's go first, the illusion of purpose. If there is no God, then everything is meaningless, right? The entire universe is winding down to heat death. I was reading through his book once, and the author said, you know what? My life is so much less stressful when I realize in 8 million years, nothing I do now is going to matter. Right? Then 8 million years, or let's say 8 billion years, right? Let's say the sun expands and burns up the earth, and we don't have a successful colony on Mars, and civilization ceases to exist. It's just going to be a dead solar system, and nothing you do now is going to matter. Okay? If there is no God, everything is meaningless. The entire universe is winding down to heat death. There's a very famous song called Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, and it has this line in it, right? It's a very talented, as far as musically sophisticated song, a whole history behind it. And there's a line that says, nothing really matters, anyone can see, nothing really matters to me. Right? You already have the song in your head. Now that is an honest conclusion. If there is no God, nothing really matters. We're just winding down to heat death. So here's a little explanation of a current understanding of the universe is expanding, and it accelerated the expansion in the earlier days, whenever that was, and then it seems to balance out, and then now it's expanding and accelerating. It's getting faster. You would think it'd be slowing down, like whoosh. Like if you blow up a bomb, at first it expands the fastest, and then there's resistance, and it slows down, and the dust falls down. So it's actually expanding now. The idea is that in 1 with 100 zeros to 1 with 150 zeros behind it, the universe will die off. The last black hole will evaporate. The last proton will decay. Well, you don't have to look at science to see this. You can look at Ecclesiastes. There's so many beautiful, encouraging verses in the Bible. Then there's Ecclesiastes. You can read, ever feeling depressed, you can read Ecclesiastes to feel you are not alone. This is King Solomon, who had everything. His dad had built up a kingdom, the first real king. Saul was more of a warlord. We call him King Saul. But King David really set up a proper palace and proper international negotiations and stuff, right? King David is the first, real established king of Israel. And his son inherited everything his father worked so hard for, and he had everything he wanted. And he says this, he says, anything I wanted, I would take. I denied myself no pleasure. I even found pleasure in hard work. But as I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish, it was all so meaningless, right? So I came to hate life. Could you imagine? You inherit everything from your dad. You got the palace. You made the temple, right? One of those beautiful religious buildings in history, Solomon's temple. all this, and he had like over 1,000 women. He had all the gold. He made gold and silver common in Israel. It says, I came to hate life. Young people, are you listening? All right, here's a whole sermon in 2 sentences. The worst thing that can happen to you, one of the worst things, is to have everything you want. When people, some of the most depressed people are the rich and famous people. And it's so easy. I mean, adults can do it as well, but it's very tempting as a young person. You idolize these superstars, you know. You be a Swiftie if you want, right? Or these rappers, or these movie stars, or these athletes, right? I remember I followed Tom Brady for most of his career. And, you know, the comebacks he would do. Like, you never count Tom Brady out of a game. Like, that guy will pull some touchdowns out of nowhere, and suddenly this guy won. And you're like, how? You were down 30 points, right? It's so exciting to watch. And you can idolize them. One of the worst things that'll happen to someone is they'll become rich and famous, and they're not happy, but here's the lie. If I become rich or famous or successful, or insert whatever you want there, then I will be happy. And at least if you're struggling for that, you're happy. You're struggling for that because you have a goal. If you get that, if you are cursed to become rich and famous, it's one of the most depressing things that will ever happen to you. That's why people in Hollywood are so messed up. Those movie stars and music stars, so many of them are on drugs. So many of them have broken homes, right? They got the bling. They have, like, you know, personal chefs and makeup artists, and they're wearing, you know, $1,000 outfits or $5,000 outfits. They have the most beautiful weddings. But how many of them stay married? Very few. You do not want to be rich and famous. It is hard to be rich and famous and still happy. I hated life, right? I hated life because everything done here under the sun is so troubling. Everything, this is the Bible, everything is meaningless. It's like chasing the wind. Like, that's not motivational. Right? That's something I love about the Bible is there's so much diversity, right? There's these wonderful verses like whatever your hand finds to do, work with it with all your heart as if working for the Lord. You're like, yeah, come on, Tony Robbins. And then there's Solomon, right? Everything is meaningless, like chasing the wind. I mean, it sounds like Bohemian Rhapsody. Ecclesiastes 2:17. The key there is everything done under the sun. Under the sun truly is meaningless. But at the end, he says, here now is my final conclusion. To get meaning, you have to look above the sun. Fear God and obey his commands, for this is everyone's duty. He also says, enjoy life with the wife of your youth. Enjoy, eat, drink, and be merry all the miserable days of your meaningless life. I was like, thanks, King Solomon. Anyhow, Ecclesiastes is in there to balance off, to balance us off, bring some depth of knowledge and experience and wisdom to our lives. Purpose according to Jesus, so simple, I remember I was watching The Simpsons one time. I used to be a Simpsons fan growing up. Maybe learned a few bad habits from them. But there's this episode where Homer gets to meet God. And then Homer, he's interacting with God. And he's like, hey, God, I got a question for you. He's like, ask me anything, Homer. I'll answer it. He says, God, what's the meaning to life? And then the end credits rolls. And you're like, no, you're about to find out the meaning to life. There's this joke out there like there's no meaning to life, right? I was watching this Will Smith movie, this robot, I, Robot. It's like 15 years old. And then towards the end, the AI in the robot gets more and more intelligent. And then it asks Will Smith, what's the meaning to life? And he's like, man, that's for all of us to struggle to find out. And Jesus brings the cookies right down. Cookies. I like Oreo cookies. I buy the Oreo cookies for myself and the gluten-free Oreo cookies for Kalea, and I dip them in milk. Jesus takes the Oreo cookies, if you're gluten-free, the gluten-free Oreo cookies, and puts them on the bottom shelf. The purpose to life is so simple. The purpose to life is to love. The verse, of course, is love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. I'm a kids pastor. In children's church, we teach it this way. Love Jesus, love others, love yourself. This is directly opposite to what is popular out there in culture. There's love yourself first, right? Self-love. the Bible says you should love yourself, not lovers of self more than lovers of God, but love yourself. But that's third. See, the order's wrong. Love Jesus first. You know what's hilarious? For married couples who say my husband or wife is the most important person in my life are less happily married than people who say God is more important than my husband or wife. Right? That's backwards. You would think, no, if your husband or wife is the most important, they should have the happiest marriages. No, they don't. And part of it because their happiness is tied up to an imperfect human being. Right? Imagine the pressure of like, you're the source of happiness for someone else. Eee. Versus God's the source for happiness. His other person is part of that happiness, but they're not the source. And people who put Jesus above their spouse or their kids actually have happier families, happier marriages. So putting Jesus first, then others, then yourself. One of the evidences that help me believe in God is I see that what the teachings of Jesus actually work. They're actually verified by science, like that research I just quoted you, right? The purpose of life according to Jesus is super simple. Love Jesus, then you love other people as you love yourself. Imagine how beautiful the world would be if we did that. Just think about that. And now imagine what the world would be like if everyone loved themselves more than others. How does that work? Right? Yeah. What's wrong with stealing, right? What's wrong with any of this other stuff? All right. The illusion of truth. This is one of my favorite apologists. Apologist is someone who defends the faith. I'm an amateur apologist. This is one of my favorite guys. He looks a little bit like Winston Churchill. Not very impressive to look at or to listen to until you hear his content. Like some guys are very exciting. He's not very exciting. But content. This is one of his famous quotes. Either human intelligence, right, ultimately owes its origin to mindless matter and random chance, or there is a creator. And this is John Lennox here. It is strange that some people claim it is their intelligence that leads them to prefer mindless matter as their source. So if there is no God, there's just random chance, mindless matter, and luck, and your brain is a product of that mindless matter and random luck. And so then what makes you think that you can trust your version of truth? Because it's yours, yeah, but then she has a different version of truth, and which version of truth is right? Versus as Christians, we believe God is the ultimate source of truth. None of us has a monopoly on truth, including Seventh-day Adventists. Okay, right? I do believe that we are the closest to the Bible. I've checked that out for myself. I was a young pastor, did all my Bible studies right from the Bible, didn't use any pre-printed materials. So if I was doing a study about Sabbath, I would go through every verse in the Bible on Sabbath. And I'm just like, there isn't. If the Bible's your source, there's no controversy with Sabbath. The Sabbath is the day of the Lord, you know. And Seventh-day Adventists have the best theological understanding of it. But some of the practical things, I think the Jews, I learned incredible things about Sabbath from Jews and from Protestants who say the Sabbath doesn't matter. They have some beautiful sermons on the Sabbath. Bible Project video on the Sabbath is A+. Anyone watches Bible Project videos? Their Sabbath video is amazing. But God is the ultimate source of truth, and we want to learn as much of truth as we can. Then, of course, in the Gospel of John, Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. You know, Jesus ruined one of my sermons. I wanted to preach in church about truth, how to know what is true or not, like critical thinking and research. And then I went to the Bible, and Jesus like, yeah, I'm not going to define truth that way. Truth is a person. And I'm like, huh. So I had a certain direction I was going. I was like, okay, well, the Bible says this. So I'm going to go with Jesus on this one. And my sermon was just about how Jesus is truth personified. Truth is a person. I know that should take like 5 years of thinking about. That's not a small statement. So truth is not an illusion if you believe in God. Truth is not only real, it's personified in Jesus. The illusion of right and wrong. Okay, every major society has a police force. Every major society has some sort of a prison system, a court system, etc. Even dictatorships will have something. Now, if you disagree with the government, it's a total kangaroo court. But even North Korea, right, or China or other dictatorships, right, the Soviet Union would have some sort of court system for people breaking the law, for people stealing or murdering, etc. Right, and there has to be some definition of right and wrong. The thing is, if there is no God, then the rules in any family or the rules in any country are just rules we make up. In World War II, this is what a lot of the Nazis, after the Germans lost World War II, a common defense, and it was intellectually honest. These people would say, well, I was just following orders when I led those Jews onto the train, or when I took those Jews off the train into the gas chambers. And it wasn't just Jews, of course, it was gypsies, homosexuals, people with mental disabilities, anybody the Nazis didn't like. Essentially, right? Christians who disagreed with them, Bonhoeffer comes to mind. I was just following orders. So the government, literally, the government decides what's legal or illegal. And the government, in a way, defines what's right and wrong for that country. And if you break those rules, you go to jail or you get punished. And if you don't break those rules, so what happens is the government makes a rule that you can go and smash your neighbor's business who's a Jew. And so you run the same, let's say you run a hardware store, right? And you have a hardware store over there, and Ace Hardware is owned by Jews. You can go and smash it and steal all the tools and equipment from Ace Hardware for free. You don't have to buy it, and you can go put it for sale at your hardware store. Well, that's a huge advantage, right? And that's what Germans did in the 30s, right? They would smash the Jewish businesses, take their stuff, their jewelry, whatever. And that was legal. Well, they said, well, my country defined that as okay. And to put the Nazis in jail, the lawyers had to appeal to a higher authority than the government. Because what happens if the government decides it's okay to mass murder people? What happens if the UN decides that's okay? Does that make it right? If there is no God, the rules in any family, the rules in any country are just rules we make up. Right? Since there is no higher authority or rule giver, then there is no actual right or wrong. And here's what that means. In nature, there is no right and wrong. You know those cute little ducks? Right? Those mallard ducks, that's the male duck. I just want to do a little protest here. Out of all the animals on earth, you ever notice the men are more beautiful than the women? All the animals on earth. The deer, right? Excuse me, ladies. My eyes are down here, right? I got my wife a fridge sticker. There's a moose, big Canadian moose with that slung. That was hilarious. Right, the mallard ducks, the peacocks, right, the silverback gorilla, the baboons, right? Down the line, all the animals, the men are more beautiful than the women. There's one animal on earth. The women are more beautiful than the men. It's humans. That's right. Who said thank God? I wouldn't mind some antlers. That'd come in handy, I think. Right? But they're really cute. We joke about it. At the end of the mating season, if there's a female duck that isn't already fertilized, pregnant, those cute little beautiful ducks with the green heads, they will gang rape her. Even gang rape her to death. Right? Grizzly bears, well, I just watched this nature show. They're having these hybrid grizzly polar bears up north as the climate's getting warmer, and like two male grizzlies will gang up against a female polar bear, and she's going to get pregnant, right? She might get killed in the process, though. Nature rapes, right? And in nature, that's just it. The purpose in biology is to make babies who make babies. So if that is the biological purpose of life, if you don't have God, then rape can be a good thing. Sometimes rape produces a higher fertility rate than consensual. Right? And now, I don't believe rape is okay. Okay, we can all agree with that. Rape is wrong, right? Rape is wrong. But why is rape wrong? Because you're violating someone's will. Why does that matter? There's no such thing as free choice anyhow. You see where this goes? That if there is no God, if you follow that through, that's a problem. right? And in Western society, thank goodness we have the laws we do. Most societies haven't had the protections we enjoy in Western civilization. Ladies, right? For most of history and even around the world right now, women have a lot less rights than men. Up until just like within about 100 years ago, right? Like getting the right to vote, right? That's huge. And that was strongly influenced by Christian theology that he created them in the image of God, male and female, right? And of course, in the New Testament, Colossians 3:11 and Galatians 3:28. 228, 328. Anyhow, rape is fine in biology. I don't believe rape is fine, but I don't have a basis for that without God. Slavery. There's entire species of ants. They're called slaver ants. They literally conquer another colony and enslave them. It's like super sophisticated. They use chemical warfare, basically. They trick the other ants and subdue them, make the other ants do their work for them. Slavery is a thing in nature. Okay? Humans didn't invent slavery. Although slavery is universal, every continent has had human sacrifice, child sacrifice, and slavery. Okay? It's not a unique practice. It is almost universal in history on a broad basis. Not every single culture, but every region of the planet has had slavery. Murder, we talked about that last night. What's wrong with killing babies if they're from a different male line? In nature, that's just biology. So if that is wrong, you should want there to be a God. Okay? And then, of course, if we are nothing more than smart animals, what's wrong with slavery or the Holocaust? Genocide, again, is a common historical thing. The Germans get all the credit because they industrialized it. They were super organized. They had industrial capacity. But in World War I, there was genocide. The Armenian genocide, right? The Rwandan genocide. This is again, a super common practice in history. And as far as biology goes, you're removing competition. Again, if the Jews own Ace Hardware, you put them out and you own a hardware store, you get more business. Right? There's more resources for your children. So it's biologically good for you because your DNA has a better chance of being propagated with less competition. So what's wrong with slavery and genocide? If there is no God, those things aren't actually wrong. We just pretend they're wrong. Right? It said here, Genesis 1:27, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created the male and female. Well, see, and God gave us a list of right and wrong. And I'm sorry, but this is a really good list. Now, if you don't believe in God, the first few don't have any other gods. If you don't believe in God, you might throw that one out. Don't make any idols. Well, you can easily verify that. Well, the first one you can do, you're happier if you believe in God. Scientifically verified. Don't have idols. Don't think that something is going to make you happy. Don't think that someone is going to make you happy. Respecting God's name, you have more happiness. Your life is more meaningful if you think there's something greater than you. You get meaning and purpose from religion. The Sabbath day, you are better taking a day off. You're more productive taking a day off. You know, when I talk to young students, man, you are so lucky. Listen, you go to medical school and you can take Sabbath off. All your friends are going to be studying 24/7, okay, sleeping a little bit. And they're going to look at you like you're crazy. What do you mean you don't do homework on Sabbath? And you're like, I don't have to. And you will get just as good a grades as them. Doesn't make any sense, but it works, right? And of course, we have our own medical school, Loma Linda. We graduate some of the best doctors on the planet. And many of those doctors take Sabbath off. You don't have to do homework on Sabbath. Amen? All right, construction workers, you don't have to. Where's Michael? You don't have to do plumbing on Sabbath. Where'd he go? He's playing guitar. You don't have to play. Actually, we play guitar and stuff. Never mind. Honor your father and your mother. Society is better when we respect our parents, and kids are happier who respect their parents. Don't murder, obviously. Don't cheat on your spouse. Yeah, sorry. We do not have the best society when we live like chimps. Chimps are very promiscuous, and it's amazing. They're teaching this in university that basically you're a smart chimp, right? That basically just you'd be better off. It's religion is oppressing you, to convince you to be monogamous. And you're like, no, things are better. Things are better. I worked in the hood for 6 years in Michigan, and let me tell you, it is not a stable society where there's one family and there's a single mom with 6 kids and there's 4 different dads involved. That is not what is best for the kids, and what's not best for the kids is not best for society. Right, just common sense. It's not, that's the ideal situation. I was raised by a single mom, so no diss to single moms. The ideal situation is a mom and dad who love each other, who are committed, choose to have kids, right? And then they raise those kids within that loving home environment. No home environment is perfect, but there is an ideal structure, and now our culture finds that offensive. You know, they want to act like all the different family structures are equal. They're not. And it's not because religion is oppressing you, brainwashing you to think monogamy is the ideal. Monogamy is the ideal. Now, we don't always get that, and there's grace, and there's a church family to help with that. I was helped by my church family, growing up with a single mom, but that was not ideal not to have a dad around. And I would have been in a lot less trouble if my dad was around to... You know, like I got in trouble with the law, I was in trouble with the police and stuff like that, and if my dad was around, I promise you there would have been less than that. I guarantee it. My mom did the best she could. My mom did a wonderful job, right? I don't not appreciate that at all. Just, in most families, there's a little more fear or respect for dad, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. If you get in trouble, who are you more scared of, your mom or your dad? Your dad. Some people it's the opposite, But boys, it's also just time. There's 2 parents. It works better with 2 parents. 2 incomes, 2 people to back together. You're like tired. I'm like, I'm done with these kids. Sarah, take over. Like, I'm going to say something I don't want to say. Don't cheat on your spouse. Don't steal. Don't lie. Be content with what you have. Oh my goodness, would we be better off being content? And of course, you find that confusing. Jesus brings the Oreos and the glass of warm milk to the bottom shelf, right? Love God with all your heart. Love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? So self-love is in there, but it comes after loving your neighbor and loving God. And then, of course, the golden rule, do to others you would have them do to you. This week is just very strange for me to be here. I'm hearing lawnmowers. I'm like, why am I hearing lawnmowers in January? Canada's really cold in January. You're looking at me like I'm crazy. This is not normal, by the way. And the next door neighbor was mowing his lawn. Dan's next door neighbor. And we were talking a little bit. He asked me what I do, kind of shared what I'm preaching about. Of course, invited him. Haven't seen him yet. Don't see Bob here. But and then he asked me about my beliefs. I asked him about his beliefs. He said, I believe you should do to other people what you want them to do to you. That's what I believe. I did say, hey, that's a golden rule. That's a Jesus quote, right? By the way, there are other quotes from other cultures. Those are don't do to others what you don't want done to you. It's in the negative sense, right? The absence of evil, where Jesus is in a positive sense, do to others what you would have them do to you. And I didn't push him. He didn't want to be pushed, right, which is fine. But probably the most incredible moral teacher in history, bar none. So before you give up on faith, we have problems in the church and in our families. There's a lot more problems out there. My brother went through a honeymoon phase, and then he's softened his stance on a lot of things. He's like, yeah, a lot of people are happier with religion. It's easier to raise kids with religion, etc. But he says there's too much cognitive dissonance for him. So I'm working with him. The thing is, he doesn't want to learn. Like I've asked him, he said, there's no evidence for God. I was like, do you want to hear some? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you shouldn't call Christians closed-minded because, anyways, I love my brother very much. If there is no God, versus if God exists, there's no personhood, no choice, no value. If God does exist, you're a person in God's image. God gives you choice. He lays before you his Bible teachings of life and death, and he says, please choose life. You have value as God's child, right? If there is no God, can you really trust the truth you think in your head, right? There really isn't any purpose, right? Nothing really matters under the sun, as Solomon would say, and there is no real right and wrong. And then who gives you authority to define right and wrong? Because your version versus my version, how dare you tell me what's right and wrong? Versus if you believe in God, God is truth. God doesn't just tell you what truth is, not just a source of truth, he is truth. God is love. He's not just the source of love, he is love personified. And God tells you right and wrong. There's that quote I used about good and evil. One of the things you see, in our existence, God has not yet. He will do away with evil at the second coming and the third coming. Actually, at the third coming completely. But right now, we still have evil. But you look at, if there is no God, what's the answer to evil? It's just meaningless. Like a little baby dies from cancer, there's no answer. That baby's gone forever. Like, that's it. Where we believe in the resurrection, that baby dies. We're going to see that baby again, right? And the best answers we have, right? Love others, right? Do unto others you would have them do to you. Forgive 70 times 7. Without forgiveness, man, like Gandhi said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, right? At what point, like the Jews and the Germans, how are you going to reconcile without forgiveness? You can't. And I'm part German, and my wife is part German and part Jewish. We got problems, right? You need these teachings of Jesus to heal and to move forward and to function ideally, optimally as a society, right? We're going to be in Kahoot here in a second. Just want to throw a quick little plug in, though. If you're just here for the morning, we're going to have a sermon about life. It's going to be a very kid-friendly sermon. We're going to be pulling things out of a hat and playing some games and all sorts of activities. We're doing that here at 11 o'clock. And then we have a couple more topics this afternoon, Jesus versus Santa, and the story of the last World War II soldier to surrender. That'll be at 3:40. But right now it's time for Kahoot. You guys ready? How are we doing for time? 10:52, right on time. Right, there goes Clayton running upstairs. All right, we've got a Kahoot. Pull out your devices. My son is getting the Kahoot going here. Oh, I didn't even use my iPad. Look at that. Had all these sermon notes. Didn't even use them. I'm sorry. I'm sure you missed some of the details I had in there. Host live, son. Nope, that's it right there, brown grass. There you go. You can take my text messages off the screen if you want. It's kind of awkward. Hello, Internet. By the way, if you're online, sorry, I haven't addressed the online audience, you can log right in. Go to kahoot.it, whether you're in the audience in the building or audience online. Go to kahoot.it and load this pin, 661-6206. All right, 661-6206. Does anybody need an extra device I can lend out? All right, right here. No, I need my phone back at the end, okay? And don't look at my romantic text from my wife.
I'm definitely not here.
Whoa, oh, stop that. Okay, right there you go. All right, anybody need an iPad? Oh, no, you can do it too. Don't worry, they'll whoop you, though, because they have faster reflexes. The biology is real, and those young people with reflexes, it's rough. Here you go. Oh, yeah, right there. Okay, it's loading. There you go. All right, Darth Vader's King Peter. By the way, don't put anything like weird up there, okay? Inappropriate. Clayton will have to delete it. Joshua 1:9. Nice. Kaylani, super plant. Someone's a vegetarian in here. Darth Vader, Team Avatar. There's no Oreo cookies. I thought we'd get like some Oreo cookies there from our talk. Billy, Danny. Right, yeah, we keep getting Ragnarok, and that's definitely a young person because they were in Sabbath school. The Beans, Billy. All right, if you're logged in, say hallelujah. If you're not logged in, say Jesus help me. You know, it's the older generation. Oh, thank you. All right. The PG, that's a kid's show. That's okay. All right, can a young person, Quentin or Ocean, he's going to help you out. You just make whatever name you want. One time I did this in church, had an adult put in there like child stomper or something. And then they got stomped by the children. It was great. Yeah, they didn't win. Yeah, don't put a name that insults young people in this because you'll be humbled. All right, 23 people. All right, think we're done in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. All right. Yes, got the right one. Sorry, I have a whole bunch of cahoots. Want to make sure it's the right one. So right here, poll. How often do you think about life's purpose? All right, never, sometimes, often, always. No right or wrong answer, just tell me how you feel. All right, I think there's 26 people. All right, 3 more people. All right, let's see. I don't know if anyone's online.
5 seconds. Except for me.
3 people haven't answered yet. Come on, guys, everybody answer. I know you're out there. 12 people. Sometimes, never, always, often. Okay, pretty big choice. The most common answer is sometimes. Interesting. Keep going. It's a good thing to think about, by the way. You get old very fast. I'm going to be 46 couple weeks. That's like, I feel like I'm 20. It's like, nope. I did have the minivan and the mortgage. Now I have the motorhome and the truck. What does Ecclesiastes say about life's meaning under the sun? Simple, joyful, meaningful, meaningless. If you want to be depressed, read the first part of Ecclesiastes. Everything is meaningless. There we go. All right. Let's see. How are they doing? Billy, is that you? All right. Billy, Jen, Bakabab, Darth Vaders, and Kaylani. Is that a smile? Or is that the third? Scoreboard. All right. Next one. All right. Quiz. What is the final conclusion of Ecclesiastes that can only be found above the sun? I don't know. Old people notice technology also glitches for the youth. You see that? They just haven't had it happen enough where they distrust it enough. All right, what is the final conclusion in Ecclesiastes that can only be found above the sun? Find wealth, chase dreams, seek pleasure, fear, and obey God. Yes, fear and obey God. So above the sun, pleasures below the sun. All right, Bob and Billy, good job. Polka Curry and Ocean. Is that really you, Ocean? All right, wow. All right, next one. Multi-select. According to Jesus, what is the purpose of life that will bring you joy? Love yourself first, love Jesus first, love yourself third, love others second. Hint, J-O-Y, in that order. Did you get it? There you go. All right, good. Most of you guys got it right. Yeah, the world says love yourself first. That actually scientifically is not the best answer. Next slide. Let's see how you guys are doing. Bob, Ocean in second, coming up fast. Oh, you are 13, 14 points down. And then GW, good Walter? I don't know. Joshua 1-9. All right. Look out, K-Bob. Ocean's right next to you. True or false? Jesus' purpose for you includes loving others and loving yourself. True or false? $21. Good. True. Got it. All right. Oh, you fell a little bit, Ocean. Slow reflexes. Got to be quicker on the reflexes. All right. Let's keep going. Let's see if there's any other switches on the scoreboard. Again, you get one wrong answer, you'll drop from first place. If human intelligence comes from mindless matter and chance, should you doubt its reliability to determine truth? True or false? If the source of your intelligence is mindless matter and random chance, how confident should you be in your ability to determine truth? All right. True. True. 1 point, Ocean. Oh my goodness. 1 point, and there's a 200-point gap and a little bit more. All right. Let's see the next one here. think we're rounding 7 out of 10. True or false? Without God, there is no real right and wrong. This should be an easy one, right? End of World War II, had to appeal to a higher source. There you go. Good job. Most of you got that right. Oh, Ocean moved up a little bit. Good job. Finally. Sorry, Bucka Bob. I don't know. It's anonymous. Right? What should you be content with? What you have, power, wealth, fame. Yeah, if you're too fast, that happens. I mean, you could say the power you have. But yeah, be content with what you have. All right, expanding your lead. Bucka Bob? I don't know. All right, let's go to the next one here. All right. Double points. Woo! According to the Bible, God is chaos, God is love, God is confusion, God is truth. What does the Bible say? God is multi-answer. I do most of mine multi-answer to keep people on their toes. Get a little more chance for people to catch up. There you go. Oh, almost 200 points up. All right, let's keep going. Oh, second and third place is getting tight. 10 out of 10, last chance. If no God exists, what is missing? Real purpose, real choice, real value, real truth. I know, I'm just hoping I selected all of them. I'm trying to remember. I just bought the pro version, so I was doing these last night. Yes, I did them right. Okay, because I feel bad when I make a mistake and you guys get a wrong answer. All right, brown grass. Third place, GW. Good, Walter. Bucka Bob. Second, and in first place, we already know it's going to be Ocean. Good job, Ocean. And wait, the runners up, Joshua 19 and Biley or Billy? Billy, it's supposed to be 2 L's. Okay. Awesome. Good job, guys. All right. Bless you guys. Let's take a break. Get up, walk around, get a drink of water. We'll come back here for the church service in a few minutes, okay? About 11:15? 11:15, Elder? When should we be back here? Quarter after. See you guys a quarter after.